Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to CCTS Online, and hope you guys are great. You're doing great, staying safe, and that's fantastic. So, we're going to talk about our very first lesson on critical and creative thinking skills. Now, without further ado, I'm going to get straight into the PowerPoint. But fortunately, this is a recording. You can't ask questions, but you can ask us during the tutorial sessions. So here goes. What is critical and creative thinking skills? Welcome to the course. Now, if you step into an intersection of fields and disciplines or cultures, you can combine existing concepts into a large number of extraordinary ideas. Now, these stems from imagination, of course. We'll talk about that shortly. Franz Johansson quoted this in the Medici effect. Okay. Now, it's important to understand this quote really represents all of you. You are all from different disciplines, and you guys are going to be working together, so you're going to be intersecting, and isn't that incredible? It's an opportunity for all of you. So what is creative thinking, critical thinking? What's all that? Now, critical thinking is really about asking questions. Yeah, you need to ask questions. Why is it important to ask questions? Because questions provide opportunities to find the right problem. Now, asking the right questions, it's not just asking questions, asking the right questions. You can ask 1,000 questions, but if all those 1,000 questions are not accurate, you will not find the right problem, right? So designing those questions, making those questions really as accurate as possible is very important. So the right problem will lead to the right solution. Now think about the onion, for example. Now the onions have all the different layers of the onions, needs to be peeled away. Now what are those layers representing? The layers represent the different questions. Now one question can go deeper and deeper onto a specific problem. If there's a problem, you have to keep asking the same question, and then eventually you keep peeling the layers, you go deeper and deeper. It's kind of like if something is wrong with the engine, you're going to keep peeling them until you find the real source of the problem in the engine. Sometimes it's very hard to find unless you go deeper inside. So that's basically how the onion analogy works. Now, search, investigations, research, you heard all these terms before. You're going to be conducting a lot of research, tests, experiments. All these are peeling layers. They're peeling away layers. And each time you do that, some of these may confirm specific hypotheses, theories. You never know, right? Specifics, I would say, you have suspicions or whatever. So you just need to keep peeling those layers until it confirms your hypothesis. Sometimes there's no hypothesis because you just want to discover what that is. So you keep also peeling layers. Now, this takes time, but the most important thing is questions need to be accurate, because accurate questions slice through the onion immediately. Okay, it's a much shorter process to find out the right problem compared to a very vague question, a question which is unclear and not so accurate. Yeah. So the right question leads to the ability to identify what needs fixing or solving. So that's important, right? Like I said, the analogy of the engine. Yeah. So but in order to find the right question, sometimes you got to, ask as many, design as many questions. But remember, you're focusing on a particular problem. So discovering problems accurately can give you a lot of surprises. Sometimes you thought, you have an assumption. You assume that this is the problem. But if you keep investigating, researching, then you'll be surprised. Really, I didn't expect to discover this kind of problem. There you go. Okay, so you have all these little surprises, unexpected places, you never know. Yeah. So what is creative thinking then? Now, creative thinking is a lot more than just problem solving. It's probably the prelude to problem solving, or probably it can work both ways. Okay, maybe you have the problem, then you have to produce ideas, and then the ideas are probably representing the solutions. So creative thinking is a much bigger term that encompasses quite a range of things. So you all from different disciplines, you can perceive creative thinking according to where you understand it. So there's no one way to understand both things. Remember that. It's almost philosophical, isn't it? So the way I see it, it's to do with problem solving, because you have to apply creative thinking on something, right? So Richard Branson, now he quoted, "If your dreams don't scare you, they're too small." Now, one of the interesting thing about creative thinking, it comes from imagination. Now, the way I understand it, you have to first imagine, dream. Why dream? Because dreams, there's no specific structure to it. You see, that's the problem in creative thinking. It's so ambiguous, and it's important for you to immerse yourself in ambiguity, because there's just too many opportunities, too many possibilities. And it's kind of like the pros and cons. The pros is opportunities, the cons is you don't know where to start. But if you put the two things together, they become opportunities. So exactly what Richard Branson did, he just dreamt of different things to create. So he created different companies providing different services and so on, and he became a billionaire, right? He's into music, he's into all kinds of stuff you can see here, right? But then he's always dreamt of designing a plane that can go into orbit and then coming back down, cutting down space travel, then blah blah blah. So he designed a company called Virgin Galactic to solve that problem. The problem was you need planes that can go suborbital flight from one point to another point, cutting the distance to travel, and so on and so forth. So we call it the Virgin Galactic. You got Virgin Airlines, then you have Virgin Galactic. You go fly higher than a conventional plane. Then his experiments became a success, but whether he's going to do that, mass produce it, or create a whole fleet of space planes, we do not know. Okay, but it worked, right? He kept testing it. He had lots of failures, but failures are the thing that made it possible, because you will never know problems if they do not work. So, and some of the things that he talked about, especially like ideas and dreams, the most important thing is they note them down. You got to learn to record ideas. Now, this is one of the important things about creative thinking. That's one of the essence of it. You're being able to think out loud. You're being able to visualize what you think about, what you dream about. Visualization means this, remember, this subject isn't about art. It's nothing to do with fancy drawings. It's nothing to do with fine arts. It's really about recording, noting down your ideas. So he says he never forgets to do this. It's very important. Keep a notebook with you, keep a journal with you, keep a diary with you. For this module, you have your idea journals in a form of an e-portfolio, where we don't call it idea journals, but your e-portfolio doubles up as it. You could note down your processes, ideas there, or you can you don't have to use your e-portfolio. You can just use your own diary or notebook or sketchbook, whichever you want to call it. Now, you can't escape the fact that 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. We are definitely visual thinkers. Your prefrontal cortex, the left hemisphere, right hemisphere, the cerebellum, whichever the parts of the brain, okay, is depends on visual input. Your eyes, okay, have tons of receptors that takes in not text, visual. Even if you're reading something on a whiteboard, or if you're looking at this slide right now, you're looking at a visual of this slide, right? Even if you're listening to me, kind of like it supports whatever that you're seeing. So you can't escape that fact. Okay, we require visual. So it's very important for you to use visuals and images to solve problems, and most importantly, communicate. Now, if you're going to communicate an idea to somebody, you definitely need visuals. Why do you think your lecturers or in lots of corporate presentations, business presentations, they use lots of graph charts, they use infographics, right? They use ads, they use video clips, some even use movies, and so on and so forth. All these work. Why do you think you spend tons of time looking at Facebook, looking at YouTube? There you go, right? You need visuals, and visuals are the only thing that can convince another human being. I mean, you can't escape that, right? So do it yourself, do it on your own, sketch, doodle, whatever you like. There's no rules concerning to how you want to do it. You are a unique person, and you can do this in your own style, all right, in your own approach. We used to have workshops for this when face-to-face classes were was a common thing before this pandemic. So we used to have workshops, and Sketchpost is a great company that do graphic recording for any corporation, any institution. If there's a business seminar somewhere, or there's some kind of medical seminar somewhere, or whichever the case, they record these things in a more visual sense, and people get copies of it, and it really helps. It becomes a good presentation board as well. So something like this is very, very useful to communicate ideas. Using post-it notes, when you're in a brainstorming session or in a discussion, it's really great to use lots of supplementary aids, visual aids, to be able to communicate, or I would say categorize ideas, and so on and so forth. Post-it notes are very commonly used. Cutouts from magazines, newspapers, and so on and so forth. So don't be afraid to make mistakes when along the process of trying or attempting. The most important thing is you got to attempt. So failure is definitely an option. Don't think that this subject does not require you to make mistakes, or you're not supposed to. This is not some kind of equation. Okay, there's no equation. There's no fixed method. You can make mistakes, and you can innovate from your mistakes. Sometimes mistakes can be serendipitous, right? Serendipitous discoveries. Now, Elon Musk is one of good examples. Also, another billionaire entrepreneur. He actually created a great solution for cutting down the cost of space travel. Every big, huge countries, superpowers, big, huge companies want to send satellites up there. Telecommunication companies want to put satellites in orbit. They want things to be around outside in space, but it's so expensive to bring payloads up into orbit. So Elon Musk created reusable booster rockets to be able to push these payloads against gravity out of Earth's orbit, and so on and so forth. Now, prior to this, all booster rockets were wasted, destroyed, right, after it's being used. But ever since SpaceX, his company, created reusable booster rockets, they were very, very successful until today. But it does come at a cost of failures. Now, his booster rocket failed many times, as you can see in this picture. Investigating multiple failures does identify the right problem. At first, they couldn't understand what was wrong with it and things like that, but they kept wasting lots of money from failures, but they didn't give up. Okay, they kept trying to find solutions, and they have a huge team of engineers, right? Young people like yourselves, right? And they are the ones who worked day and night trying, using mathematics, whatever, whichever, all the sciences you can think about to create success, right? So failures create opportunities to improve, develop your solution. So in the end, it worked. The booster rockets landed fantastically. Now you can go to YouTube and look up SpaceX successes on reusable booster rockets and things like that. You would know, if you're familiar with SpaceX, you would know what I'm talking about. So do that. So what does a dreamer actually do? Now in the field of creative thinking, how do you put the critical and the creative part together? Now in creative thinking, you start off with dreams, imagination, etc., right? All this sort of thing. Now dreaming is very important. So the dreamer dreams, for example, in this example, let's just say you're dreaming of flight. Okay, the dreamer dreams that he or she want to fly. Okay, now then again, based on your dream, you record your ideas in a form of a drawing on an illustration, some kind of a wishful thinking. Oh, look, what if I strap a rocket around my back, wear a helmet, and boom, whoosh, I can fly really high up in the sky, like Superman, right? Okay, like Superman's are all superheroes, people that can fly, all this wishful thinking, these are all dreams. Okay, now, but what if you can make it work, right? Then you have an engineer, a team of engineers who are the realist. They call them the realists. Like let's make it real. Let's make it happen. Let's work on making this possible. What happens here? What happens here? Okay. How do you reinterpret the booster rocket? Could be like a let's take some parts like a drone and whatever, and all these little components. Looks workable, right? It's possible. Then you try to build it. Okay, so from illustrating it, you try to build it for real, and that's prototyping. The realist, you try to work with real, like a mock-up thing, or you basically what you guys would be doing mock-ups, but in a real situation, they build it, real engines, real this, whatever, and they test it. So lots of testing is done. Then after the testing, it's time for critical thinking. So they talk about so many things when you come to the critique side. So many things can be addressed. You have to identify what does not work, why are you using this material, how much fuel is using. You look at the realistic, the term called reality bites. Okay, so there's some things you got to like change, some things you can't do yet, maybe. What are the ethical considerations of this, and so on and so forth. So the critical part of thinking is so important to evaluate and assess, okay, the solutions. So that's what critical thinking is for. So critical thinking is for you not just to inquire and ask questions, but it's also to evaluate and assess the solution. And that also creates opportunity for you to produce more alternative solutions. Yeah, so it works hand in hand. So the three components work really well together, and you can find common ground and agreement. So in the end, they work together and they produce the exact thing that would probably be the closest thing ever to make a person fly. So the dream can come true. Now the dreams coming true is a costly thing, and it's a journey. It's not something that can be done in a day or 2 days, but it's really a journey. Okay, so how does that work? So you got the dreamer. Okay, draw a circle around the dreamer. You put a circle, another circle overlapping the dreamer called the realist, and then another circle overlapping both that circles called the critique. And what do you see? The overlapping things are common ground. Now, speaking about common ground, there's one thing that makes it, when it comes to matters of, I would say, motivation, attitude is important. Because when you make mistakes, when some things don't work, when your ideas are not really there, or you're struggling to get ideas, you need to check your state of mind and your emotion. Have you heard of the term "don't give up"? There you go. So it's very important that you check your attitude. So attitude is everything. Okay, now you're going to be tested. You're going to go through a lot of things in this semester in the academic world. There's a lot of challenges that you're going to be facing. So it's important for you to make sure that you are on the rock. You're stable, you're steadfast. And what makes yourself steadfast is attitude. Now, exercising a positive mind produces a very rational attitude and a level-headed attitude towards things. You're not impulsively judging, okay, judging yourself or judging others, because you should be able to exercise empathy, okay, and understanding, and so on. So, and patience and perseverance and so on. So these are the most important aspects of your attitude. Holding on, being able to take criticisms, being able to take receive correction is very important for ideation, because you can't learn if you're unable to accept the fact that maybe you were wrong. But if others are wrong, or if their opinions are wrong, are their opinions wrong? Maybe they are. Maybe they judge too early. So you're going to have to find a way to dispute, to whatever, with a correct attitude. You should be able to find common ground with them, or sometimes, and so on and so forth. So you can defend your ideas if you're right. Okay, defend it with hard facts, defend it with good research, reinforce your ideas. But if you don't have enough research, you of course open doors for criticism. So always maintain a positive mind, because a positive mind provides a wide peripheral view. You're able to see widely. You're able to see more than that one singular direction. So you're able to keep an open mind. Okay, so you're going to have to cut the T out of can't. I can do it. Not to say that you can do everything. If somebody says, "Oh, can you climb the Mount Everest tomorrow?" I can. No, that's what I meant. I can think of possibilities. That's what it is. It's not stupid. It's not ridiculous. It's a dream, and there's no harm having a dream. Okay, you could rephrase that, right? You could say, well, if this is possible, I could. But that's possible. Nothing wrong with positive thinking. Nothing wrong with positive emotions. You're not putting out the front. You're not being a hypocrite. You're just making positive affirmations that will make you, that sort of like make you be, it lets you cope with trying times, with difficulties, with lots of adversities, especially when you're trying to find ways to solve problems. It can impact creativity. Emotions can. Yeah. Now, look at soldiers. Look at how they train. They go through tests of mental, physical, and emotions. It's not easy, right? So don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid to participate. If you're hesitant, talk to someone. That's the most important thing about in any academic pursuit. Communications is very important. So sometimes we cannot understand enough. You can't even imagine how difficult it must be for anyone to face a very tough situation or problem. But the opportunities for this subject is this. We teach you how to put that problem on paper and write it down, visualize it, learn a process to how you could think to solve it. So that it's really a kind of a philosophy. Yeah. Now, there's no limit to what you can create. It's not art, but it's inventions. They are inventions. You're not just inventing things or products. You're inventing also systems. You can look at different disciplines. You're inventing systems, but you can't invent systems again, or different things without, a team. So sometimes you need a team to work with. Now, your first assignment is technically an individual assignment, but you will need to get data. Data is from others. So we'll talk about that. Now here, the picture of a teamwork. Now this is a medical field. Now in a medical field, there are also needs, okay? Needs for solving issues. There are lots of needs, and needs come from problems they see. So we need this to solve this problem. We need this to, for example, COVID-19 has produced huge amount of needs here and there. It's a huge industry, the medical field. And the most important thing is preventive measures, prevention of infection and things like that. Now they're talking about vaccines, but I wouldn't get into that, right? It's a lot to describe there. It's a lot of issues that we can potentially see happening. But there you go. Medical field is one thing. Biosciences, all kinds of research. Even in the broadcasting, entertainment field, there's no limit to where you can find needs. Okay, every discipline have needs, so therefore there will always be ways to find problems or where the problems are coming from, things like that. So you could investigate and find out. People always have, every industry, there's needs for solving problems. In the design field, design is a huge industry, and there's so many different disciplines under design alone, and there are tons of needs there. The gaming industry, billion-dollar industry, right? Lots of needs there. There's not enough, for example, programmers or coders, and very often the needs are financially related, right? So same thing. Now, the field of architecture, using new technologies, for example, yeah, lots of opportunities there. Now, try to remember one thing. It's not about being famous. It's about being in the creative flow. Now, if you want to get into the creative flow, you really have to enjoy your experience. You got to make your experience enjoyable, right? More rewarding. Now, if you live creatively, boredom is banished. Yeah. Fresh discoveries are always possible. Sometimes discovery can be more accidental. You heard of the term serendipity, right? So there you go. And remember, if you enjoy the process, you got to make sense of this for yourself. If you enjoy it or learn or grow to enjoy it, it's kind of like an arranged marriage, right? You do not know. Think of CCTS, like you're getting married to CCTS. At first you react, oh no, but then you have to forge a relationship with CCTS, right? So if you do that, you start to fall in love with it. Then you start to enjoy it. So do that. Same thing with other modules. At first you'd be like, maths? Oh no, I hate maths. But then you have no choice but to forge a relationship with maths, and there you go, right? So do it positively, positive thinking, right? So you got to be able to think positively and learn to think positively, because otherwise you're only looking at one singular direction. Your peripheral view is badly affected, and by doing so you won't be able to see the other possibilities. If your peripheral view is wide, then my gosh, your attitude is totally different. Okay, you're not so stuck up anymore, you're not so rude anymore, you're not so angry all the time. Yeah, so you're not so frustrated all the time, but at least you learn to cope with it by trying to see wider. Yeah, so remember that. So there you go. So this is the end of our first lesson. So what do you think? Huh? This is not a recording. I'm sorry, this is not a live session. This is just a recording. So hope that you could ask us more questions, and we love it when we discuss about stuff. And yeah, but as you discuss, I encourage you to start sketching, right? So that's all for this video, and thank you so much for paying attention. If you didn't pay attention, watch it again and pay attention. All right, so you take care of yourself, live long and prosper. Till I see you in the next video. Bye.